The rain-slicked streets of Brooklyn glistened under the sodium glow of streetlights. And I, Reed Callahan, was running late. My best friend Nate's text had been urgent. Almost frantic. Dude, I need you. Dad's in trouble. Meet me at the shop. Now. My sneakers slapped against the pavement. Heart pounding. As I picture Nate's dad. Marcus. Caught in some vague, catastrophic mess. Maybe a robbery. Maybe worse. I'd known Marcus Hayes for years. Ever since Nate and I bonded over late-night video games and bad pizza in high school. Marcus was the kind of dad who'd toss you a beer at a barbecue, crack a dry joke, and then fix your car without asking for a dime. He was a widower, a mechanic, and a man who wore his grief quietly, like a second skin. But trouble? That wasn't Marcus. Or so I thought. The neon sign of Hayes Auto Repair flickered as I skidded to a stop outside the shop. Nate was pacing under the awning, his hoodie soaked, his face pale. Reed, thank God, he said, grabbing my arm. It's Dad. He's easing deep. Deep how? I asked, catching my breath. The shop's garage door was half open, revealing the familiar chaos of tools, tires, and a faint smell of motor oil. Inside, Marcus stood with his back to us, his broad shoulders tense, talking to a man in a cheap suit who looked like he'd crawled out of a bad crime drama. Loan sharks, Nate whispered, his voice cracking. Dad borrowed money to keep the shop afloat after Mom died. Now they're squeezing him, and he won't tell me how bad it is. I stared at Marcus, his silhouette framed by the dim shop lights. At 42, he was still striking tall, with salt and pepper hair and a jawline that could cut glass. He'd always been a quiet force, the kind of man who commanded respect without raising his voice. But now, his hands were clenched, and the air around him crackled with something I'd never seen, fear. Nate, what do you need me to do? I asked, my voice low. I was a graphic designer, not exactly a candidate for playing hero in a mob movie. But Nate was family, and by extension, so was Marcus. Talk to him, Nate said. He listens to you. He always has. Maybe you can figure out how bad this is. Get him to open up. I'm scared, Reed. I've never seen him like this. I nodded, my stomach twisting. Marcus turned then, his hazel eyes catching mine across the shop. For a split second, his guarded expression softened, like he was relieved to see me. My chest tightened inexplicably, a feeling I shoved down as I stepped inside. Reed, Marcus said, his voice rough but warm. Didn't expect you here. Nate called, I said, glancing at the suit, who was now eyeing me like I was an inconvenience. Everything okay? The suit smirked, adjusting his tie. Mr. Hayes and I were just discussing business. Nothing for you to worry about. Kid, I bristled. I was 28, not some teenager. I'm here for Marcus. So maybe you should explain what kind of business this is. Marcus's lips twitched, almost a smile, but his eyes were wary. Reed, go home. This isn't your fight, but I wasn't leaving. Not when Nate was shaking beside me. Not when Marcus looked like he was carrying the weight of the world. I crossed my arms, planting myself firmly. I'm staying, the suit laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. Loyal friend. Huh, fine. Tell your buddy's dad he's got 1 week to pay up. Or this shop, and maybe more, belongs to us. He sauntered out, leaving a heavy silence. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, muttering a curse. Nate started to speak, but Marcus cut him off. Not now. Nathan. Go home. Both of you. Nate protested, but I grabbed his arm. Let's give him space, I whispered. Outside, under the awning, Nate's frustration boiled over. He's shutting me out. Reed. He's always done this, thinks he can handle everything alone. I'll talk to him, I promised, though I had no idea how. Marcus was a fortress, and I was no expert at breaching walls. But as I glanced back at the shop, Marcus was watching me through the glass, his expression unreadable. My pulse quickened, and I told myself it was just adrenaline. The next morning, I showed up at the shop unannounced. Marcus was under a car, his sleeves rolled up, forearms smudged with grease. The sight of him focused, capable, yet somehow vulnerable, did something to me I couldn't name. I cleared my throat. Need a hand? He slid out, wiping his hands on a rag, his eyes narrowing. You're persistent. Callahan. Guilty, I said, forcing a grin. Nate's worried. I'm worried. Talk to me. Marcus. He sighed, tossing the rag aside. It's not your problem. Reed. You've got your own life, your designs, your city gigs. Don't get mixed up in this. But I was already mixed up. I'd always admired Marcus, maybe more than I'd admitted to myself. His strength, his quiet humor, the way he'd looked out for me when I was a kid struggling with my own identity. I came out to Nate at 16, and Marcus had been the one to pull me aside, tell me I was enough, that I didn't need to hide. Now, he was the one hiding. Marcus, I'm not leaving until you tell me what's going on, I said, leaning against a workbench. Nate said loan sharks. How much do you owe? His jaw tightened. But after a long pause, he spoke. 50 grand. Interest piling up faster than I can pay. I thought I could manage after Sarah died, but the shop's been bleeding money. I didn't want Nate to know. 50 grand. The number hit like a punch. And if you don't pay, they take the shop, he said, voice flat. Or worse. I swallowed, my mind racing. Let me help. I don't know. Freelance more. Get some cash together. No, he snapped, then softened. Reed, you're a good kid. But this is my mess. I'm not a kid, I said, stepping closer. Our eyes locked, and for a moment, the air between us shifted, charged with something unspoken. I broke the gaze, heart pounding. What the hell was that? That night, I couldn't sleep. Marcus's voice, his tired eyes, the way he'd looked at me, it all looped in my head. I'd never thought of him as anything but Nate's dad. But now I wasn't sure what I felt. All I knew was I couldn't let him face this alone. Over the next week, I became a fixture at Hayes Auto Repair. I told myself it was for Nate, to keep an eye on Marcus. But deep down, I knew it was more. Every time Marcus laughed at one of my dumb jokes or brushed past me in the cramped shop, my skin prickled with awareness. I was treading dangerous ground, and I couldn't stop. Marcus opened up, bit by bit. Late one night, as we sorted through invoices to find extra cash, he told me about Sarah's cancer, how it drained their savings, how he'd borrowed from the wrong people to keep the shop running. I wanted to leave something for Nate, he said, staring at a photo of him and Sarah on the desk. This place was her dream, too. You're doing your best, I said, my hand brushing his. He didn't pull away, and the air grew thick, our breaths sinking in the quiet. I wanted to say more, to tell him he didn't have to carry this alone, but my throat closed up. The deadline loomed closer, and the suit, Vinny, we learned, started showing up daily, his threats growing sharper. One afternoon, he cornered Marcus when I was there, slamming a fist on the counter. Time's ticking. Hayes, you don't pay. We start breaking things. Maybe start with that pretty boy you've got hanging around. My blood ran cold. But Marcus stepped in front of me, his voice low and dangerous. Touch him, and you'll regret it. Vinny laughed, but he left. Marcus turned to me, his face a storm of guilt and anger. You shouldn't be here, Reed. It's not safe. I can handle myself, I shot back, though my heart was racing. And I'm not leaving you to deal with this alone. He stared at me, his eyes searching mine. Why do you care so much? Because I'm falling for you. The thought hit me like a freight train, but I couldn't say it. Not yet. Instead, I shrugged. Your family. His expression softened, and he reached out, squeezing my shoulder. His touch lingered, warm and steady, and I felt like I was drowning in it. I started digging into solutions. I reached out to a friend, Lila, who worked at a community legal aid office. She warned that loan sharks like Vinny operated in gray areas, untouchable by cops unless we had hard evidence. Give me something concrete, she said. A contract, a recording, anything, I told Marcus, and he hesitated. I signed a deal with these guys. It's not exactly legal, Reed. If I go to the cops, I could lose the shop anyway. Then we'll find another way, I said, determined. I started shadowing Vinny discreetly, snapping photos of his car, his men, anything that might help. It was reckless, but every time I saw Marcus's tired smile, I knew it was worth it. One evening, as we closed the shop, Marcus caught me looking at him. What? He asked, a half-smile tugging at his lips. Nothing, elite. My face burning. Just you look tired, he chuckled, leaning against the wall. You're not so bad yourself. Callahan. Ever think about settling down? The question caught me off guard. I dated guys before, but nothing serious. My life was a whirlwind of freelance gigs and late nights. No room for roots. But looking at Marcus, I wondered what it'd be like to build something with someone like him. Maybe, I said softly. If I found the right person, our eyes met, and the world seemed to pause. He stepped closer, his voice low. You deserve someone who sees how special you are. Reed. My heart stopped. Was he saying what I thought he was? Before I could respond, his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. It was Nate, checking in. Marcus stepped back, clearing his throat. I should call him. Yeah, I said, disappointed but relieved. This was Nate's dad. I couldn't cross that line. Could I? By the end of the week, I'd gathered enough photos and overheard conversations to give Lila something to work with. She was optimistic, but Marcus was skeptical. These guys don't play by the rules. Reed, you're poking a hornet's nest. Maybe, I said, but I'm not letting them take you down. He looked at me then, really looked at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. You're something else. You know that. I grinned, trying to hide how much his words meant. Just doing what I can. That night, as I left the shop, I felt Vinny's eyes on me from across the street. My stomach dropped. I was in deeper than I'd planned, and there was no turning back. The air in Brooklyn grew colder as October deepened, mirroring the chill in my gut. Vinny's men were circling closer, their presence a constant shadow. I'd catch glimpses of them outside the shop, in parked cars, or lingering at the corner deli. Marcus noticed, too, his jaw tightening every time he spotted them. But he kept working, stubborn as ever. I was at the shop daily now, under the pretense of helping with paperwork. But really, I was there for Marcus. Every glance, every accidental touch, sent my heart into overdrive. I told myself it was just a crush, a stupid, fleeting thing. He was Nate's dad, twice my age, and straight, or so I'd assumed. But the way he looked at me sometimes, like I was more than just his son's friend, made me question everything. One night, as we locked up, Marcus broke the silence. "Reed, you don't have to keep coming here. You're putting yourself at risk." "I want to," I said, meeting his gaze. "You're worth it." He froze, his eyes searching mine. For a moment, I thought he'd say something, but he just nodded, his expression unreadable. "Get home safe." "Okay," I nodded, but as I walked away, my mind was a mess. Was I imagining the tension between us, or was there something real, something neither of us was ready to name? Lila called the next day with news. "About a lead," she said. "Vinny's crew has a history of shaking down small businesses. If we can get proof of extortion, we could take it to the DA." "What kind of proof?" I asked, glancing at Marcus, who was fixing a carburetor across the shop. "Something undeniable. A recording, a witness, a paper trail. But be careful, Reed. These guys don't mess around." I hung up, my resolve hardening. That afternoon, I rigged a small recorder in my jacket, hoping to catch Vinny's next visit. When he showed up, his usual smirk was gone, replaced by a cold glare. "Hayes, you're out of time. Pay up, or we start breaking bones." Marcus stayed calm, but his hand shook slightly. "I'm working on it, Vinny. Give me a few more days." Vinny leaned in, his voice low. "You don't get it, do you? This ain't just about money anymore. You're making us look weak." I stepped forward, my recorder running. "Back off, Vinny." "You're not touching him." Vinny's eyes snapped to me, narrowing. "You're a problem, kid. Keep sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, and you'll regret it." Marcus grabbed my arm, pulling me back. "Enough, Reed." Vinny left, but not before giving me a look that promised trouble. Marcus rounded on me, his voice sharp. "What the hell was that? You trying to get yourself killed?" "I'm trying to help you," I snapped, frustration boiling over. "You can't keep pretending you've got this under control." He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling heavily. "I don't want you hurt, Reed." Not because of me. The rawness in his voice stopped me cold. I wanted to tell him how I felt, how every moment with him was tearing me apart, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I said, "I'm not going anywhere." That night, I went to a bar to clear my head. Nate met me there, his face drawn. "Dad told me you're helping with the shop," he said, nursing a beer. "You don't have to do this, Reed. It's his mess. He's your dad," I said. "And he's important to me." Nate raised an eyebrow, but didn't push. "Just be careful." "Okay," I don't know what I'd do if something happened to you. Guilt twisted in my chest. Nate didn't know about my feelings for Marcus, and I wasn't sure I could tell him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. As I left the bar, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Can you come by the shop? Need to talk. My heart raced as I made my way back. The shop was dark, save for a single light in the office. Marcus was there, sitting at the desk, a bottle of whiskey in front of him. He looked exhausted, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. Couldn't sleep, he said. Offer me a glass. Figured you might be up. 2. I took the glass, our fingers brushing. What's on your mind? He hesitated, then leaned back, his voice low. You're on my mind. Reed. My breath caught. What do you mean? He looked at me, his gaze intense. I'm not good at this. After Sarah, I thought I'd never feel anything again. But you're different. You make me feel things I don't understand. The world tilted. Was he saying what I thought he was? I set my glass down, my hands trembling. Marcus. I don't, he said, standing. Don't say anything. Not yet. I just needed you to know. He stepped closer, and for a moment, I thought he'd kiss me. But he stopped, his breath ragged. Go home, Reed. Please. I left, my heart pounding, knowing everything had changed. The next morning, I woke with Marcus's words echoing in my head. You make me feel things I don't understand. I wanted to run back to the shop, to tell him I felt the same, but fear held me back. What if I was misreading him? What if this ruined everything? My friendship with Nate? My place in their family? I threw myself into the plan to save Marcus instead. Lila had a contact in the DA's office who could help if we got solid evidence. I spent hours combing through the shop's records, looking for anything tying Vinny to the loan. Marcus caught me at it, his expression a mix of gratitude and worry. You don't quit, do you? He said, leaning against the doorframe. Not when it's important, I replied, my eyes meeting his. The air crackled again, but he looked away, clearing his throat. We need to be smart about this, he said. Vinny's not stupid. If he catches you sniffing around. I know, I said, but I was already planning my next move. I'd overheard Vinny mention a meeting at a warehouse in Red Hook. If I could get there, maybe I could record something damning. That night, I told Marcus I was heading home, but instead, I took the subway to Red Hook. The warehouse was a hulking shadow, its windows dark. I crept closer, my recorder ready, heart pounding. Voices drifted from inside, Vinny's, sharp and commanding, and another, unfamiliar, discussing debts and consequences. I was so focused I didn't hear the footsteps behind me. A hand clamped over my mouth, and I froze as Vinny's voice hissed in my ear. You're a real pain. Kid. Panic surged, but I twisted free, sprinting into the night. I didn't stop until I was blocks away, my lungs burning. My recorder was still in my pocket, but I hadn't gotten enough. Worse, Vinny knew I was onto him. I didn't tell Marcus about the warehouse. He was already on edge, and I didn't want to add to his stress. But the next day, when I showed up at the shop, he knew something was wrong. You look like hell, he said, his eyes narrowing. What happened? Nothing, elite. But he grabbed my arm, his touch gentle but firm. Reed, don't lie to me. You're in this because of me. If something's wrong, I need to know. I sighed. spilling everything, the warehouse. Vinny, my near miss. Marcus's face darkened, and he pulled me into the office, shutting the door. You could have been killed, he said, his voice shaking. Do you have any idea what that would have done to me? His words hit hard. I'm trying to save you, I said, my voice breaking. I can't lose you. Marcus, he stared at me, his eyes raw with emotion. Then, before I could process it, he closed the distance between us, his lips crashing into mine. The kiss was desperate, hungry, like he'd been holding back for years. I kissed him back, my hands tangling in his hair, the world fading away. When we pulled apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. I'm sorry, he whispered. I shouldn't have. Don't, I said, my voice firm. Don't apologize. I've wanted this for longer than I can admit. He smiled, a real smile, and my heart soared. But reality crashed in fast. Nate, I said, stepping back. What do we tell him? Marcus's face fell. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Together. We didn't have time to bask in the moment. Vinny's deadline was tomorrow, and we were no closer to paying him off. Lila called with bad news. The DA needed more than my photos and partial recording. We needed a smoking gun, and we were running out of time. I suggested a risky plan, bait Vinny into confessing on tape. Marcus hated it, but he agreed we had no choice. We set it up for the next morning, wiring the shop with a hidden mic. I'd confront Vinny, push him to talk, while Marcus stayed close in case things went south. As we prepared, Marcus pulled me aside. If anything happens to you, Reed, I'll never forgive myself. I cupped his face, my thumb brushing his cheek. Nothing's going to happen. We're in this together. He kissed me again, softer this time, and I knew I'd do anything to keep him safe. The morning of the sting, the shop felt like a pressure cooker. Marcus was quiet, his hands steady, but his eyes betraying his nerves. I was wired, literally, with a mic taped to my chest, and figuratively, my adrenaline spiking. Vinny was due any minute, and everything hinged on this. You sure about this? Marcus asked, his voice low as we waited in the office. No, I admit it, forcing a smile. But I'm doing it anyway. He squeezed my hand, his touch grounding me. Be careful, Reed. Vinny arrived right on time, his usual swagger in place. I stepped out, heart pounding, and faced him. Let's talk. Vinny, you want your money? Tell me exactly what Marcus owes and why. He smirked, crossing his arms. You think you're smart, kid? Hayes owes 50 grand, plus interest. He signed a deal. He knew the terms. What terms? I pressed, leaning in, praying the mic was catching every word. You're shaking him down for more than he borrowed, aren't you? Vinny's eyes narrowed, but his ego got the better of him. Business is business. He pays, or he loses everything. Maybe you, too, if you keep pushing. That was it, the threat we needed. I kept my voice steady. You're admitting to extortion. Then, he laughed, stepping closer. Call it what you want. You're out of your league. Kid, before I could respond, Marcus stepped out, his presence commanding. Get out of my shop. Vinny. Vinny sneered but backed off, clearly rattled. As he left, I checked the mic. The recording was clear, enough to take to Lila and the DA. We sent the evidence to Lila, who was cautiously optimistic. "This could work," she said, "but it'll take time to build a case. You need to stay safe until then." Marcus wasn't convinced. "They won't wait for the law, Reed. They'll come for us first." He was right. That night, as we closed the shop, a brick crashed through the window. A note tied to it, "Pay or burn." Marcus's face went pale, and I grabbed his hand, pulling him outside to check for danger. "We need to tell Nate," I said. "He deserves to know what's happening." Marcus nodded, but his eyes were distant. "And about us? What do we say?" The question hung heavy. I wanted to be with Marcus, but Nate was my best friend. The thought of hurting him tore me apart. "We tell him the truth," I said finally. "But not yet. Let's get through this first." We met Nate at a diner the next day. He was furious about the brick, the threats, everything. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Dad," he demanded. "I didn't want you involved," Marcus said, his voice heavy. "I wanted to protect you." Nate turned to me, his eyes searching. "And you, Reed? You've been in this the whole time." "Why?" I hesitated, my heart pounding. "Because I care about your dad. More than you know." Nate's brow furrowed, but he didn't push. "Just fix this, okay? Both of you." We promised we would. But as we left the diner, Marcus pulled me aside. "I don't deserve you, Reed. You're risking everything for me." I smiled, brushing my fingers against his. "You're worth it." That night, we stayed at the shop, keeping watch. In the quiet, Marcus opened up about his past, his marriage, his fears, his confusion about his feelings for me. "I never thought I'd feel this way about a man," he admitted. "But with you, it's right." I kissed him, slow and deep, pouring everything I felt into it. For the first time, I let myself believe we could have a future if we survived this. Lila's contact at the DA's office moved fast. By the next morning, they had enough to issue a warrant for Vinny's arrest. The evidence, my recording, the photos, the note, painted a clear picture of extortion. But Vinny wasn't going down quietly. Word got back that he was planning something big, a final move to scare Marcus into submission. We fortified the shop, boarding up the broken window and installing a cheap security camera. Marcus was a wreck, his guilt over-dragging me into this, eating him alive. "I should have handled this alone," he said, pacing the office. "Stop it," I said, grabbing his shoulders. "We're in this together. Always." He pulled me into a hug, his breath warm against my neck. "I love you, Reed," he whispered, the words raw and real. I froze, my heart soaring. "I love you, too." We didn't have time to savor it. That night, as we locked up, headlights flooded the shop. 2 cars screeched to a stop, and Vinny's men spilled out, armed with crowbars. Marcus pushed me behind him, but I stepped forward, my phone already dialing 911. "Stay back," Marcus shouted, but Vinny's men were on us. I dodged a swing, my heart pounding, as Marcus tackled one to the ground. Sirens wailed in the distance, and the men scattered, but not before one landed a hit on Marcus's shoulder, sending him to his knees. I rushed to him, my hands shaking as I checked for blood. "I'm fine," he grunted, but his face was pale. The police arrived, arresting 2 of Vinny's men. Vinny himself was picked up an hour later, his empire crumbling under the weight of our evidence. The shop was safe for now, With Vinny behind bars, the shop's future was uncertain, but Marcus was free. We sat in Central Park the next day, the autumn leaves swirling around us. He took my hand, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. "I don't know what comes next," he said, "but I wanted to be with you." I smiled, leaning into him. "Then we'll figure it out." Telling Nate was the hardest part. We met him at his apartment, and Marcus took the lead, his voice steady but nervous. "Nate, there's something you need to know." Reed and I were together. Nate's eyes widened, his face a mix of shock and confusion. "You're what?" "I love him," Marcus said simply, his hand finding mine. Nate was quiet for a long time, then nodded. "I need time to process this. But if you're happy, Dad, I'll get there." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Over the next weeks, Marcus and I rebuilt the shop, piece by piece. We faced whispers and stares, but we faced them together. The shop became more than a business. It was a symbol of resilience, of love, of fighting for what matters. One evening, as we sat on a bench in Central Park, Marcus pulled me close, his lips brushing my temple. "You saved me, Reed," he said, "in more ways than one." I laughed, resting my head on his shoulder. We saved each other. The city hummed around us, alive with possibility. We'd faced danger, doubt, and fear, but we'd come out stronger. Love, I realized, wasn't just a feeling, it was a choice, a fight, a promise to keep going, no matter the odds.